my opponents and like what they were playing. So I hope you guys can remember yours.
Oh God, dude!
You just remember what yours was, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember what mine was.
Yeah.
What
like
I played against.
for day one.
Yeah, for day
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
So day one, I played Sam Tool first. That was Earth, Water, Chaos Arc.
Yeah.
You played Wool?
I played against Wool. Yeah.
I played Ice Lightning.
You played Ice Lightning?
Yeah, I was playing Ice
Really? Oh, that's why that game went so long. Is like, there's not really a finisher.
Was it Ice Lightning or Mono Lightning? I'm pretty sure it was Ice Lightning. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was playing Ice Lightning.
I got wrecked.
Yeah, I felt like the game was very back and forth. I felt like if I would have drawn slightly better, then I think I would have been in a really good position. Just because like Warrior of Light has so much gas, they're just like kind of always applying pressure. All of their 3-drops do stuff. Warrior of Light kind of stays alive no matter what you do because of them being able to pitch to him to sacrifice to protect him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it just got away from me.
I don't think that I necessarily played too many misplays, but I just took too long to get to the end game.
Yeah.
He got set up, and every turn, Une, grab back art.
Well, yeah. I mean,
It's just
I think there was a little bit of mind games there too because you got him to 6, and you were at 0 or 1.
I was at 0.
And he was just like, yeah, I'm gonna lose this game. Yeah, I'm gonna lose this game. Like he was projecting that and vocalizing it to his teammates.
Yeah.
And I think that might have been a way to either make you try to play a little slower to like make sure you would solidify it as opposed to just like trying to shove into his face
Yeah.
and just finish the game. I think I agree. I don't think I really had any misplays except for manually casting Odin to try to break his Warrior of Light.
Yeah.
I may have had some advice.
Solid advice.
some advice to do the action, but no, I think that was really the only big misplay, and then I repeated in a future match later on as well. I'm just like, never manually cast Odin on a Warrior of Light.
I mean, if they have it, right? This video is sponsored by Nerd Labs. At Nerd Labs, we carry all kinds of Final Fantasy TCG singles. If we don't have the card, it's probably because, I don't know, somebody's already bought it. We carry everything from promos all the way from Opus 1 to Opus 21. Every single day, prices are updated to be 10% cheaper than whatever is TCG player low. So get your singles while you can. Back to the video.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those things.
So, game 1, I played. I'm pretty sure it was Ice Lightning. I'm glad he wasn't playing Chaos Arc because I probably would have got beaten had he been playing that.
His buddy was on the center seat was on Chaos.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was playing Monsters with Shinryu. They won. The match went to time, and he tried to push for game to get as much damage as he could for seeding, but I ended up was able to play Tross to bounce something to attack for game, and that was it. But it went all the way to time. Yeah, really good player though. The first guy I played was a really good player. They were all really smart.
Yeah. They knew what they were doing.
Playing the new Opus 20, shouldn't we?
Yeah, Opus 20 should be. Yeah.
My second round was Earth, Water, Monsters. That was
Yeah.
with the guy that was worried about playing down.
Yeah, we got paired against people, and the center guy was very upset that they were playing down.
Yeah.
The A and C seats were like, yeah, it's whatever, it happens.
Which, is this Chantoto Cast? Is that guy?
No.
No.
Was third.
No.
So, anyways, Earth, Water, Monsters. He was a good player. I knew a little bit more of the Earth, Water because of Oscar.
guy.
Yeah. And he was playing the Mirror Zombie package, and I want to say I mean, he just kind of run me over eventually. I mean, once monsters get set up, it gets set up, and it's tough to break. So, just another instance where I got outpaced.
I was against Ice Water Griever,
Yeah.
but they were playing Neo X Death, and my opponent went turn 1 Neo X Death on me, and I was on Lightning Water Scions, and I thought my game was over. There was no way that I thought I could outpace this thing, but unknowingly, I kept kind of a risky hand, and I had an Oracle of Light in my hand. So I just rolled out my Oracle of Light, pitched a couple of, I think I pitched a Stinian, and like a backup to it. Like I didn't really have any forwards in my hand. And then I drew into an Alpha Nod. So when I eventually was able to sandbag the Alpha Nod, but I played the Oracle of Light. At the end of my turn, had to sack it to the Neo X Death, brought in a Stinian, was able to have some pressure with him. My opponent decided to attack with the Neo X Death because I was able to keep forward with pressure, and then I was able to Alpha Nod and force him to break the Neo X Death.
Yeah.
So, retrospect, my opponent was like, I shouldn't have attacked with Neo X Death, and I was like, probably not.
Yeah.
But that was very, very scary, and I was glad that we got that one.
Yeah.
So, game 2 was Shinto, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Great guys. Very nice.
Yeah, it was those guys. I played against FF13, which I thought, due to the previous tournaments and stuff, I put a lot of board wipes in for FF13, and my matchups are about a 50-50 against them, depending on their opening hand. He ended up opening really strong. I think I dumped my hand for Hecaton, not completely all of it, but I dumped Hecaton. I know it was going back and forth. I know he could have won at any point in time because he had me to like 6 damage, and had he top decked anything that had haste, he could have went for game because I had no hand, no board. But I was able to just restabilize, and the changing moment in that game was when I got Shinryu. I played Shinryu. Shinryu specialed him. I'd done Hecaton him twice. I Shinryu specialed once, and then I drew into another one, and I Shinryu specialed him again. And it was just a back and forth battle of trying to keep a board and poking. And I eventually had enough tackles to go for game. But it was a really hard game, and it could have went either way. And that's the way it is usually with FF13. It's either you can board wipe them and play through it, or they get you off the start and everything over you. It's flipping a coin, basically.
You were seed A the entire day, and I was seed C. But I remember looking over after my opponent goes Ned, I go Oracle of Light. And in that time frame we did that, I looked over. You had 4 damage marked on you.
Yeah,
and
first turn, second turn.
And I looked at Ryan, and I'm just like, oh no.
Yeah, and I board wiped him 4 times. Yeah, I know it had to be frustrating for him. Taking me to 4 damage and then getting board wiped 4 times. I know that sucks, but then everybody hates playing FF13 as well. So
Yeah,
it's only fair.
Little karma.
It's only fair.
So round 3 was my bye. So we played that team of 2.
Oh yeah.
So one of you played FF6 and the other played
Mono Ice.
Mono Ice.
Yeah, Mono Ice.
How'd yours go?
Mono Ice, we won. Yeah. It was one of those things of they were not able to get a full setup against me because Y'shtola was killing off-key pieces. Estinian was applying a lot of pressure. Alisair was giving me 2-for-1s, so they were never able to Dole and freeze me. So that felt really, really strong, is the Scions were able to just 2-for-1 bodies the entire way through, and yeah, they just weren't able to keep up with it.
Yeah. FF6, I've been playing Monsters a long time. It's changed a lot through every Opus. This guy right here was on FF6 for a while, so I know how to play against it. I know what it kind of does. and it ended up happening to be the coolest guy I think I met over the weekend.
Great
FF6 guy was probably the coolest guy all weekend.
He's been on FF6
If you watch
for a
this,
while.
dude, you're awesome.
He's been on FF6 for a while.
And he played the Strago version, which I really like, the water, which is what he ran before as well. A lot of people play the Stooge package, but this guy was playing the water package. And with my deck, I can let him set up, let him do whatever he wants. And FF6 is kind of a setup deck, mid-range deck, I think. I feel like it is. Once he got established, I was just letting him do whatever. He poked for a few damage, which is fine because taking monsters to damage 3 is when it opens it up to push for game. Then I ended up I drew into 2 Shinryus at some point in time. And he was always making the comment that I had too many cards in my hand. I was like, well, you keep giving them to me. And Realm, if I have 5 monsters, will bounce it forward. Then you get to draw a card at the end of the turn if you have Tross on the board, which is really a good way to generate hand size. And then I ended up going he went really wide. He went with, I think it was the Saban Edgar package and a few other things. And I played Shinryu for basically at a reduced cost for 2. Then I went basically to get around Shinryu, you got to ping it before you kill it before he searches another one, so you can Shinryu special, which I ended up having another Shinryu in my hand. And he knew it was going to be over if I did. He's like, do you got it? Either you got it or you don't. I was like, I do. So I pitched the cost for Shinryu, and I pitched Shinryu, and I Shinryu special on top of it before I even searched. Board cleared, and then I pushed for game, which I kind of had I already had it planned out how I was going to attack for game, but I had a dumb moment, and it took me a while. And I know this guy was sitting there standing like, dude, you got it. And he didn't want to say it because he didn't want to be a jackass and tell me how to win the game, which I understand, giving it away. But I finally went into Dulled Animus, paid the 1, put it in the break zone, pulled out a blue worm, and I drew a card to be able to discard to attack with Tomberry because I had no hand at that point. But I also run Orator, which will let you bounce a card, a monster, and I could have discarded that way, but I didn't even think of that. I kind of went the long way around it, but it ended up...
We got there.
Yeah, it got there.
Got there.
And I know he was probably banging his head sitting there, which... We're like that anytime.
But I think it's really important. Like you said, you got the buy in that match. They had a third that day who was running a very intense list. I can't remember what they said it was on, but it was running the mods. It was running, I think, generals and stuff like that. So it was running a lot of really key pieces that neither of them were able to run in their decks. That we would normally see in those decks. And I think that it definitely hurt them because they weren't able to change their deck lists in time for day 1. But, I think if they have a third person there, it's definitely a different match.
Oh, yeah, for
100%.
sure. For sure.
Yeah, I'm glad they let him play, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Very cool that they let him play it with 2. And they actually won a few games, so
They won a couple
I know
matches,
they did good, and that's pretty good. That's crazy going against odds.
Taking an automatic loss in every single match.
Automatic 7 damage.
Yeah.
That's how it falls, 0-7.
Yeah, they did really good.
Hurt your tiebreaker. See?
So round 4, I played against Muhammad. He was on Mono Ice Aggro. You played Sam Prime. And I don't remember. You were playing against Wool because that was the second Wool match.
That was the second Wool match. Yeah. I can't remember my player's name. Great guy.
Former Magic player, right?
Former Magic player. We talked about it. He plays Lorcana a little bit now. We were like, do we know each other just from other previous games and stuff like that?
Yeah.
But same thing. He was on the wall package. He turned 1 Wool, put out 2 3-drops. I was able to deal with the 3-drops pretty easily. I didn't want to kill the Wool because I didn't want him to play a second Wool. But I don't think my round 1 opponent was on the Gilgamesh package, but round 4 was on Gilgamesh package.
Yeah, for sure.
And he had 5 elements or 6 elements in the break zone. I didn't want to give him the Warrior of Light as well, so I was in this really awkward phase. But yeah, same thing. I had an Odin in my hand, and I'm just staring down this Warrior of Light. It's putting me. It'd be attacking it's my 6th point of damage, and at this point I'm kind of running out of stall potential. Right, I don't want to just get blown out, so I'm like, okay, I feel like I have to Odin here. Of course, he has 4 cards in his hand. He has the Warrior of Light, and then just like in round 1, we didn't say this, but the damage that I took was an Odin. So, same thing in round 4. The damage that I took there is an Odin. So, I can't target the warrior now, but he wouldn't have been able to interact. Just like my round 1 opponent would have be able to interact. Hindsight's 2020, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely one of those like trust my EX bursts that are in the deck. And yeah, I don't know. I think those were my big misplays of the day. Was just like deciding to hardcast Odin, which I guess can be debated if it is a misplay, but
yeah. I mean, if they got it, they got it. I mean, that's going to be my argument to that every time.
Yeah.
So Mono Ice, I mean, you played Muhammad in Raleigh first during the Materia Cup. So Muhammad's a very high caliber player, and he knew what he was doing with Mono Ice. I mean, I did a little bit of something, but then he started to just. I lost my hand. I lost my board. It was just. I got run over.
it was rough.
Yeah.
For me, I played against. I think it was Water Earth. Une
Chaos Arc.
Chaos Arc. It was just. I started off decent. I felt like my draws weren't the greatest, but I start. That is a deck that if it sets up, you're going to be done no matter what. So. I ended up establishing a board, but once he got his Chaos Arc on board, dude, I couldn't establish enough hand to be able to board wipe him because all my board wipes are 7 CP, 6 CP. They're all high value, and then him being able to arc something just really puts a damper on things in your hand.
Yeah.
Which, knowing now, I mean, we're not like the most professional players at all. We're just average Joes. And
Speak for yourself.
this guy maybe, but myself, I made several misplays against him for the simple fact that when you cast Arc, if the forward doesn't get broken, you don't discard the 2 cards. So had I popped something back to my hand or mirror to something, I think I would have been. It wouldn't have changed the outcome of the game. He would have still beat me, but there might have been a sliver there that I might have been able to come back.
I think there was one turn where he was like really, really fragile because he had like no cards in hand and he played the Une.
Yeah.
But like if you have the removal at that moment, I think you can. But I don't think you had the removal in any way.
No, I didn't have it at that point. And he was a really smart player. I guess he's been playing a long time because he had mentioned something about playing Realm and Monsters and former formats and stuff. Really cool guy, really nice. Yeah, he actually took a picture of us playing right before the game. Really, all of them were really cool guys.
That was it was a fun match, but it was a competitive match, and it was like
Laid back.
a mentally engaging match.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So round 5 was Earth. I played against Earth, Wind, Ice. Basically, I wrote it down as Earth, Wind, Ice 5 drops, but it was a hodgepodge of high-cost forwards. It was Retainers, it was 5 CP Wool, it was Ultimecia. It was a whole bunch of just like very interesting synergetic cards. And I just eventually got to the point where I played Ferris and had 18,000 damage to deal out. So however many Warrior Elites that is, I had a really good pop-off turn and he couldn't recover. So he just kind of scooped after that. But that was a really fun match overall.
My match was mono wind like aggro combo.
Yeah.
And I was in such a strong position throughout the entire first 2/3 of the match. My opponent had 5 damage marked on them. I had like 1 damage marked on me. He had Zidaned me multiple times. He had taken 2 Oracle of Light, or he had taken an Oracle of Light. He had taken a General. He had taken an Alisei, and then he had damaged me once or twice, and there was an Alisei in my damage zone. So like that's already kind of dismantling some of my package.
Yeah.
But I was still in control. He had 5 damage marked on him, no cards in hand, right? And because the turn previously he had like unloaded his entire hand, and I was able to play a Y'shtola, play the 1 Alisei left in my deck, play and grab an Alpha Nod and kind of blow up everything except for a Vaughn that he had on his deck. And he draws Dryad Chocobo. And these are probably the only 2 cards that like make me lose the game. Because he was able to cast Dryad and do its alternate cast cost, and he was able to Chocobo on the exact same turn, which then allowed him to grab back a Zidane, play Zidane as his 3rd card. Now it has haste, and then he set up with Lulu, and it was just. I felt like I had the win in my hand, and then he was like, "Actually, hold on, never mind." So that one was like heartbreaking. That one was heartbreaking for sure.
Yeah. I played. I think they were on Fire, Lightning, Scions. Very weird package. Had Class 0 cadets in it with the backups 9 and Ace, which was really cool. I asked him about it and everything, and he explained all of his choices. And I like Class 0 cadets. And really cool whole ordeal. Which I started off pretty good, and I was kind of like in control, and then all of a sudden. Well, his friend looked over. The board state was really good in my favor, and he asked him, "How you doing?" The guy was like, "I don't know." Then what do you know? Chaos Arc comes out and blows my shit to pieces. So, and after that happens, and I think he got Men in Black and was able to recur it.
Wow.
And once that happens, I mean, there's really not much you can do. And I wasn't even expecting Chaos Arc in that deck as he was playing. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it comes out, and I just knew that I was basically done for at that point.
At one point, I had heard him mention there's a lot of mono in the format right now, and he was even saying I don't even care to hardcast Chaos at 7 CP, or something like that. Like if they're only playing 2 colors and you can drop it for 7, he's like, it still feels good.
Right.
It's insane.
But I mean, I think that was no one expects Scion, or no one expects Chaos in a Scion shell, because Scion is just so aggressive, normally speaking, as a Scion player, right?
Yeah.
Because last minute you guys told me to put General in my deck, and felt very strong, felt very powerful, kind of felt on tempo with what we're doing as a deck. I don't think Chaos falls into there. I don't think Chaos is this is exactly what Scions is doing or wants to do.
Yeah.
And so I think it has that catch you off guard feel.
Yeah, and it did.
That inspired us for day 2.
Yes.
So overall, we ended up going 2-3.
Yeah.
Which I don't know exactly what standing that was at the end of the day. I didn't never check, but very cool tournament. Very cool group of people. I had a ton of fun.
Interesting format. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Everybody that we met, I'd say, was really cool, relaxed. Everybody had a good conversation.
Yeah.
Everybody that played against, really cool people, cool community. We actually got to meet some of the other YouTubers that put videos, and went up to and talked to, and nicest guys you ever meet. So if you ever see any of the guys, or if you see us anywhere, you can come talk to us. We don't mind.
Befriended a lot of the guys down in the Texas group that came.
The Dallas,
there's 17
area.
people from Texas that
they
came.
had a
That's
good
insane.
showing.
A massive group.
Yeah. And I think that's why people ran Chaos Art, because they knew Warrior Light was going to be there with
for sure.
Gilgamesh, and I think that kind of hurt me just in general, because I have a bunch of different elements among my deck there. So
A couple of elements that aren't castable normally.
But very fun. Yeah.
So day 2 was
Great.
Yeah. For this guy. Great
totally different. So typically my thought process is, if I'm going kind of heavy meta oriented in day 1, I definitely want to play something fun on day 2. And I ended up running Rug and Paul. So it was Wind Earth, but its main gimmick is Rug and Paul, but then it has retainers to fall back on.
Yep.
You played...
I played, because the previous day we've seen Chaos Arc all day. I decided that Dragoons, I really wanted to play something different off meta, so I wanted to play Dragoons, and I've been playing with them a lot here lately, and they're fun, kind of little setup-y, slow. So we decided the previous day, which you'll know about the monster deck as well, to run Neo X Death and Arc in it, which helped the Dragoons a lot just to be able to set up, but they were still overpowered by a lot of things because unless you top deck Neo X Death, people don't let Dragoons set up that often. So,
And yeah, day 2 I ran Monsters because Oscar was like, I don't want to be on Monsters tomorrow, and it's a deck that I love. It feels very control-y. It feels very like you can kind of do whatever you want. I'm going to do whatever I want, but I'm going to make sure that I'm stalling you in that process. That's just the kind of playstyle I really enjoy. And yeah, we had a lot of discussion the night before about how we wanted to kind of tweak the deck going into day 2, and a lot of discussion morning of.
As we're filling out deck lists.
yeah.
There was a lot of like, all right, scratching this card off. Actually, we're going to play this card. And I really felt like the changes we made were substantial, very meta effective.
Yeah.
I think we changed maybe like 7-8 cards between day 1 and day 2, but it made a big difference, I guess.
For sure. It changes how the deck sits on the board.
Yeah.
It really does. It really does. So, my overall standings were 3-3. I was 29th out of the 60 odd people that were there. I don't know if you want to talk about yours.
I went 2-4. And the 2 that I did win was because Neo X Death, and it didn't even seem like a Dragoons deck. So I'll just talk about the 2 that I won. I played Griever, Ice Water Griever, first turn Neo X Death. Couldn't set up. It just went to like rounds, like about poking for damage, and I took him all the way to 7 damage. He didn't do nothing. Neo X Death just shuts him down. The next deck that I won against was FF13, and it happened to be really funny because me and him were sitting beside each other at the low tables, and we were, and he was playing against FF13. Were you playing against FF13 at that point?
The same guy you played, I played him the round before.
Yes. Okay, so he's seen me get smacked by FF13 that round because I played another FF13. He did his whole shebang where he damage, and it's just over in 10 seconds, which really cool guy. It was Shen Totocast, one of their guys. We ended up playing two more games of different decks, which was really fun. Really cool guys because we got to play some more games with them. And then
I was playing 13 that same match.
Yeah, because he was right beside me. He seen me get smacked.
Yeah.
And he thought I was just straight Dragoons. And then the next round I played him, and then I straight pulled out Neo X Death, and it shut him down. They could not do anything. Couldn't get enough going.
Yeah.
He had Bahamut in his deck, but he just wasn't able to get it and cast it. So I ended up taking that one, and that was my only 2 wins. I lost to, I can't remember what else I played, but I lost pretty hard to everything else.
I actually had a bye.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
I had a bye day 2, but then the 2 that I won were
2 buys.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm a lucky guy. I don't think either game that I won, I even pulled out Rug or Paul. Like, both games were just retainers. Like, retainers doing retainer things. Which, knowing that Ghoul, I didn't know Ghoul even ran retainers until I think we got home. But I just wanted to take Rug and Paul just to do stupid stuff. But the 2 games that I won were pretty much just like easy. 13 doesn't really do a lot against retainers just because retainers are so big, and it's hard for them. They have to at least like sacrifice a couple for their big ones to get even bigger, to get over Gladiolus, and especially at damage 3, he gains 2k. He just becomes this massive body on the board. But then like that was fairly simple. Retainers just kind of carried that, and then the other game that I won, I don't even remember who I played, but I don't think it was super difficult. But then, like, the games that I lost that day, I played against Earthwater Monsters, and it was, like, neck and neck. It was, like, 6-6 or 6-5, something like that.
Oh, you beat me, dude.
I did. I beat you that day. That was my other one.
Yeah. Had I top deck Freya and something to play it, I would have won, maybe.
He was a board wipe away from winning.
Yeah.
And then...
This close.
Yeah, it was this close. And I top decked the Freya. I just didn't have the CP to do it, I think, or something.
But yeah, the games that I lost, I felt like they were relatively close. It was just kind of getting over that little hump to close it out, which kind of feels like story mode. So,
So I started off day 2, really good. I won my first match. I was against Suarez. It was a match that I'm not really comfortable with because not a lot of people play it, especially in our locals. We don't really even play test around it. So it was like pretty interesting. I had to, I think, board wipe a couple of times. My opponent was not ready for Tomberries, I don't think, because I animated a Tomberry and they blocked with it, and they were like, "Okay, cool, your Tomberry dies," and I was like, "And so does your forward," and they're like, "No, Madame Abel like protects it," and I was like, "No, it doesn't, because Tomberry's doing damage, and because of Tomberry's effect, it breaks your forward, so it gets around Madame." And at that point, I had already set up an order. I had already set up an animist, so I was able to recur a bunch of Tomberries. I think you guys have walked up towards the end of the match and yelled at me for doing stupid stuff. So that match felt really, really strong. Round 2, I definitely misplayed because we were against the Shantoto. I was against a guy from Shantoto Cast. The same guy I actually played against day 2. So I knew he was on ice water control. And I just deployed out a good chunk of my hand. I played a Realm, I played a Mira, I played a Zombie, and I just felt... And then I had like one card left in my hand. Well, then he was able to just go set up, and just start controlling my CP, controlling my hand size, because he played a turn 1 Griever.
Yeah.
So that game, I overextended really hard, and he just took advantage of me. There was no coming out of that.
Yeah.
But then I went on a little bit of a hot streak. I won rounds 3, 4, and 5. Back-to-back mono ice decks.
Nice.
Neither one of them was ready for a turn 1 Neo X deck. And I think that was the biggest piece of Spice Tech that we put into the monster list going into day 2 was we were trying to... Because you were really on the Shinryu package in this deck, which I think helps with consistency of being able to tutor and like search for key pieces.
Yeah.
But I think Neo Exeth fits what we're wanting to do with the deck a lot more because it gives us those 2 turns of setup that monster wants to have.
Yeah.
And your opponent has to answer it, or because they're either going to get stonewalled by this 10k, or they're going to have to spend 8+ CP to remove it because they're going to have to get rid of a character or get rid of multiple cards in their hand. So it's just very beneficial for us to just make sure our opponent doesn't have answers for what we're deploying with our monsters. So round 3, round 4, both of my opponents were like, what is going on with this Neo? They just were never able to get their backups established. They were never able to really get their forwards established because, once Neo's in play, I'm now starting to play Tomberries, draw cards. I'm playing Blue Drakes, I'm drawing cards. I've got the pitch Mira, play a zombie, grab Mira back, play Mira. Look at the top 5 cards, grab another monster. So I am just like retaining a lot of value against a deck that normally wants to starve your hand. There was just no catching up. Round 5 was a sweater. I was against ninjas, which I was comfortable in, with a big asterisk next to it. Just because one of our guys was on ninjas, and we were kind of talking strategy with him a little bit as well. But this player was fantastic. I mean, she knew kind of ninjas in and out. And turn 1, I went Neo X deck because I didn't know what she was on. And I did know what she was on, but I went turn 1 Neo X deck, and I was like, please do not play turn 1, drop your hand with an edge. And she was like, what do you mean? Plays edge, drops her entire hand, and I'm just like, okay, well, this is going to be hard.
Here we go.
And she would sacrifice the backup and then play the exact same backup. So then she would tutor a ninja. And then I would board wipe, but she had the two ninjas that tutor for each other that she'd already played again. So every time I board wipe, she'd play the exact same cards again.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, all right, you just have it.
Yeah.
But I think I Shantoto'd. I then Cloud of Darkness. I Cloud of Darkness first because I wanted to keep my Neo X deck. And she was like, okay, I'm going to get rid of these two, and then replays both of them.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, this is bad luck. And then the following turn, I play a Shantoto, and she is like semi-frustrated, but at this point, she's rebuilt her hand size and is able to dump again. And then I Titan, and then I Hecaton. So like I had played 4 board, like very similar to like your X13 matchup. It's just like I board wiped so many times against her, and I was like, please don't have it, please don't have it. And I was able to just slowly build up enough Tonberries and enough like backups. I had an Orator and a Animist in play again, and she played the win guy that allows you to tap down X number of characters equal to the number of ninjas I think you control. And she tapped down my Tomberry, my Atmos, and another one of my monsters because I had a Mira in play, and I had previously sacrificed a Mira and given a monster indestructible.
Yeah.
And so she had 4 ninjas in play. I was at 5 damage. I'm like, so she's like, all right, I'm going to win the game now. And I was able to break Animist, grab the last Tonberry in my deck, pitch Mirror to Tonberry, and stonewall that attack, and then board wipe on my turn with the Hecaton. And but it was a stressful match. It was a tough one. And that leaves round 6, where I got very cocky. I thought I had the match on lock, and I was against Mono Water, and I felt like the changes that we made with Neo X deck kind of just poops on Mono Water.
Yeah.
But my opponent was teching specifically for this event, and was playing the Opus 14 Shinryu.
Yep.
That breaks all 3 drops, breaks all 6 drops, breaks all 9 drops, and then every turn does 7k to the board, or you get to draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
And nothing in monsters is over 7k, so all of our forwards are dying, and our monsters just aren't able to keep up with whatever he's doing. So he very easily wiped the floor with me. There's no coming back from that. But yeah, so we ended 4-2. 15th overall. Felt very good.
Yeah, not bad.
Top 16's good.
Yeah, top 16 is.
Yep.
So let's kind of talk about the theory that I'm really happy that like all of us were able to like talk about it the night before. You and I a little bit whenever you went to bed, but then in the morning we kind of went over a lot of the changes that we had talked about and then started doing even more tweaking.
Yeah.
So first thing is we run 3 copies of Tyro. This is a card that you've been on for a while.
Yeah, I've been on this deck for a while. I played it at the Materia Cup the previous. I was on Crystal variant, and this guy's talked me out of it over the days, and then I switched to a mono monsters deck, which I played day 1, and then which was on Shinryu, the Opus 20 Shinryu, and then so we made changes to that, so switched to the dark side. Yeah, from the light to the dark. So, and it seemed to work.
So I think Tyro is good. I think we mainly play Tyro for the EX burst. A lot of the games that I played in day 2, I never wanted to cast Tyro. A lot of the times I ended up pitching him for CP. But it's mainly because I really relied on the 2-drop Orator and the 2-drop Animist that will cover the deck list as well.
Yeah.
I just valued them a lot higher than I valued Tyro as a backup.
Turn that around so it looks. You think so? Yeah.
So we're going to turn it?
I would say so.
All right. So next up in the deck list is going to be Shantato. We run 2 of these. You were originally on 3,
Yeah.
but part of the last minute changes that we did day of, and as I'm writing the deck list 20 minutes before the round one starts, we actually trimmed this down to 2 because we wanted to play a one of Cloud of Darkness.
Yeah.
And the justification that we made because of this was we got on the Neo X Death package, and our thought process was, okay, so not only do we get to take an Earth support and turn it into a water support, so it kind of helps some CP fixing that way, but Cloud of Darkness also allows us to keep our Neo X Death in play and starve them even more. So if their board starts to get complicated, they get to keep whatever they want, but I'm going to keep a Neo X Death, and I'm still going to continue to starve them as I continue to rebuild or reset.
Yeah. And this was something also, like, I don't know if we mentioned, but day one in the tournament, our decks couldn't share any cards. So this was Cloud of Darkness I was playing before, but I had to take it out because he runs it in his Lightning Water Scions. But then we added it back, so it does really good, especially with the Neo X Death. That just made it even better.
Next card is we run 3 copies of Opus 5 Order. It allows us to break it and put a monster we control back to the hand. So it allows us to do some fun blocking shenanigans. It allows us to give a really big stall opportunity with Mira Zombie combo. So it just buys us a lot of those crucial setup turns that we need in monsters. But that was part of your original deck list, right?
Yeah.
Another card that I really like that you run is Matoyo.
Thanks to Ryan for that, because he told me to run it.
This card is deceptive.
Yeah.
The card is very, very deceptive. It's reasonably cost at 4 CP. Being able to return a character is pretty big.
Character. That's really good.
Yeah.
So monsters.
So we can get monsters, we can get Realm back, we can get a Mira back, we can get a Neo X Death back.
Yeah.
But on top of that, it's also a board wide, right? For a little bit of extra CP. I think it's 1 CP more than a Shantoto at the end of the day. So this card is a one-of in the deck, but it's a very, very versatile one-of in the deck that I think really helps round out those like extra reaches that we need as a monster deck. The next big powerhouse backup, and this is the last of the backups, I'm pretty sure, is 3 of Animists. This card, I needed to read more because round 1, and I even think round 3, I played it at damage 3 and didn't even tutor. But it's very, very, very good. At damage 3, we start to get to tutor our deck. We get to grab a monster out of our deck and put it to the hand. But also we can pay 1 and break Animus to tutor our deck for a monster of 2 or less and put it directly into play. And that saved me, especially in the match against Ninjas, but a couple of times. And I think it also saved me in round 1 against the Soirees, was getting a Tonberry off of the Surge, drawing a card, and then being able to animate Tonberry, sacrificing Mira to give Tonberry indestructible so he doesn't break. And then now I have a Death Touch wall that you're not going to be able to break, so you're not going to attack into it.
Having an on-demand block at any point is stupid good.
And then it helps you get cards in your hand.
Really, really does.
Help me day 1.
All right, next up, the star of the show, best card in the deck, Tonberry. I was very mad at you because I played Tonberry in my Scions deck. But
that's when he had to compromise. I had to compromise on Cloud of Darkness,
but I think this card is a powerhouse. There are some people who know what Tonberry does. There are a lot of people who don't know what Tonberry does. And they're just like, oh, it's a 2K monster, whatever. Let you draw a card, and then you're like, all right, break your forward, and the look on their faces is just like, oh no, you know. So we run 3 of that, obviously. There's no way we wouldn't. Next up is Tross. We run that as a one-of. And this is part of like your original, like very intense package.
So Tross, you can play Tross off of Realm, And then Realm, if you have 5 monsters, you get to bounce a forward on their side, and it is mandatory, so be careful with that.
Yes.
If you got to target Titus or it mandatory targets regardless of whether you have 5 monsters or not. So you at the end of the turn, you have to target one forward of your opponent's forwards. You get to return it to their hand if you have 5 monsters, and if this is on the board, you get to draw a card. It's awesome to be able to regenerate hand size.
Yeah.
And they're like, bounce that, draw a card, and they'll be like, what just happened? How does that even work? And then they got to read Realm, and then I'm like, well, Tross is right here, so then you got to read Tross.
Day 2, I actually had the judge walk up to me, and I was like, all right, bounce your guy, draw a card. And he was like, why are you drawing a card? That's not what Tross does, or that's not what Realm does. And I was like, I pointed over at Tross, and he had to pick up Tross and read it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this is a really spicy combo that like has made it through all iterations of the deck that I think you've played with.
Yeah.
All right, up next is Blue Worm. And the reason you run Blue Worm is just because the draw power, right?
Draw power and to be able to attack. Just for this deck is mostly board wipe and then push for game. So Blue Worm breaks at the end of turn, so you can just push for game and you're not even going to care about it. And the good thing about monsters are you don't really activate them until after you see their damage, because EX Burst, they'll be able to break a forward. So you don't motion activate all your monsters. You wait one by one as you attack. So always remember that.
Helps keep your board very protected. In a world with EX Bursts. Yeah. So we run 3 of those. All right, the next card is like your new spice tech. A lot of people were on this tech. And that's Zombie. This card by itself is very bad.
Yes. By itself.
But with Opus 21, we got a 1-drop Mira. That let us look at the top 5, grab a zombie or grab a monster. And put it into our hand. So Zombie got very, very good because of that synergy. And being able to sacrifice her to Zombie, giving him Unbreakable when you animate him, and then if you play another zombie, being able to grab Mira back.
That's the big deal.
It's just a very big loop.
And Mira can do any monster, so it don't have to just be zombie. So you can do the Blue Worms, the Toneberry, like he was saying, Unbreakable Death Touch. It can be any monster that gets Unbreakable.
And I think I don't know if you were on 3 zombies.
I was on 3,
But we trimmed it down to 2 during the cuts. Just because we were trying to find...
This is already hard spaced. It's not got a lot of open space on this deck, so it's hard to trim this. So you look at something, you're like, do I really want to take that out? No, I don't. But you got to do what you got to do.
Next card, I think, really is a big, important factor of the deck. But it played an even bigger role in the deck after the changes we made, as we were all realizing it. Because I don't think we all realized it at first. And then we were like, oh, we get to play around with this idea a lot more now. And that's Magic Pot. It's a 1-drop, so when we play our 5-drop realm, we can automatically grab it and one of our 2-drop monsters. But we can sacrifice Magic Pot and a forward in play, and it allows us to go and get another copy of that named character, right? So it doesn't have to be the exact same copy.
Correct.
But it can be that character's name.
It has been errated, so you can't play a multi-character, but you can play anything else.
Okay. And that's really important because of our realms. We're running the 2-drop realm as well as the 5-drop realm. So it allows us to evolve our baby realms into big realms. And it allows us to kind of establish monsters without having to cast 5 CP every single time. But more importantly, with the Neo X Death package that we've talked about a little bit, we also, we'll show it in a minute, we also run the Earth Neo X Death. So we can shift our Earth Neo X Death board wipe for the monster mirror match or other forwards, and put it, after we've utilized the board wipe, shift it into the dark one, and then just start controlling their board rebuild. Or vice versa. If we feel like they're getting a little bit too out of hand, we can turn our dark Neo X Death into the Earth board wipe
Yep.
and just reset ourselves. And I think that little bit of package, turning this one drop semi-useless monster
Yeah.
into a very very powerful potential board wipe,
Yeah.
I think is pretty big.
And
Yeah.
they would not see that coming.
Oh no!
Yeah, and then even like going from Dart Neo X Death to another Dart Neo X Death, they target the Neo X Death, so they have to sack something.
Yeah.
And then you send it to the break zone, you pull out another one, so then they've lost whatever they
paid to target it.
Yeah, whatever they paid to target it, plus sacking everything else.
Yeah, I think we did that in playtesting.
Yeah, that happened to me.
It was on my turn. You went to break the Neo, and we were like, wait, we can just magic pot it because it's on our turn.
Yeah.
I still get to keep my Neo X Death, and you're having to get rid of something.
And this is only during your turn, so remember that you can't play it in your opponent's turn, or you can't do it in your opponent's.
That'd be nasty if I could do it any turn.
And if you're playing this deck, and if you decide to play this deck, and you're doing the whole realm package, make sure you can go into your battle phase and attack with realm before you magic pot into another one. If they decide to block it, then just magic pot it into another one. A lot of times they'll be just sitting there thinking like, "Why are you attacking?" And they'll be like, "Okay, it's early game. I'll just take the damage," and you get a free damage for nothing.
I do want to caution that you risk them breaking an Odin, or you risk them breaking something that can blow up your realm, and then we can't respond to it. So always weigh the options, but I think that's really important. I didn't even think about that the entire day too. I think there were a couple of times I could have attacked into a blank field, and I didn't do it. Yeah. So that's big.
Yeah.
Another card that you love that a lot of people had to read,
And they hate it. A lot of people hate this, but yeah.
because a lot of people read it. They're like, "Oh, you may pay the one. You don't have to pay the one whenever he comes into play." So yeah, I would just play a behemoth, and they're like, "All right, do you pay the one?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. I don't." So you don't have to, but this is another one drop that we can get off of Realm. I think it's just this and Magic Pots with the one Evray, right?
Yeah, one Evray.
So our one drops are semi-limited, but this guy's just a powerhouse.
Yeah.
He's a 7-drop. We can pay 1 Earth, animate him. He doesn't break like a lot of our other monsters do, like Zombie or Blue Worm. And he's very deceiving. He can just hang around and then attack and get a lot done. Or you can play him towards the end game, make it so someone can't block, and then attack him.
A lot of people didn't like this because you have to pay the one to activate him to be able to attack, but a lot of times, if you're pushing for game, you're going to have a Tomos. So, Adamos, damage 3, he becomes a forward. You're pushing for game, you're going to attack. Then it restands all your backups. So then you're able to pay just the 1 CP to be able to activate him to push for game. So that's why I really run this behemoth with the Tomos. And the Tomos gets brought out by 5-drop Realm. That's usually one of the first ones that you go for, as well a Magic Pot. And then you just keep the cycle going, get a Tross, and then you'll have a whole board full of monsters as long as they don't do anything about it. And a lot of times, most of the people that I've played with this deck, they're just like, what in the world's going on? They just don't know what's happening, or it's really a mind-straining deck to play because you got to keep track of all yours. And it's even worse for them because they got to sit there and you'll see
Read
them,
your cards.
You'll see them poking, pointing, counting all your cards to see how long it will take to push for game and if they need to establish a board or not. So it's really fun deck to play.
But it's also a very fun game of cat and mouse, I think, because we've already established with some of our backups the amount of board wipes we have. We've not even gotten into the summons. We've not even gotten into the Neos or anything like that. So your opponent's always kind of afraid to establish a board state. Just because they have no idea what's going to come. But yeah, so there's the Atomos that he was just talking about. So I like this card. Day 2, I think I only played it one time.
Really?
So day 2, I did a lot less backup focus. And did a lot more with the Neo X Death and just presence with Tombury's Blue Worm zombies. And those can be pretty terrifying because now your opponent's just trying to figure out how to deal with this Neo X Death. Atomos really came into play round 1, my round 1 opponent. and I think it came into play maybe round 3 as well.
Yeah.
But like in the overarching the majority of my games, I actually didn't go for this card. I think it's very situational based.
Yeah.
But I know you like to always grab it pretty early on.
Just being able to also, like, monsters are all low cost, even your backups. So if you sit there and play 2 cards and you get your stem 2 backups up, and a lot of times, like, you'll go where you'll draw into all your blue worms and Tomberry and be like, draw 3 cards and then play 3 cards. And being able to stand back your backups and stuff. And they're like, how in the world did you just play 3 cards and then draw 3 cards? It's just kind of dumb.
Yeah.
As long as you got like 3 backups, as well as Evray, you just keep restanding everything up, and it's really fun.
So last 1 drop in the deck is the Evray.
Yeah.
Right? I think this card is actually like really, really important for our deck from the aspect of, as mentioned earlier, we run a very limited amount of 1-drops.
Yep.
So Evray is a target for our realm to make sure it's not dead. But it's also, if I only have 1 backup, it allows me to reutilize that backup quite a bit. I can play a behemoth and then, untap that backup with Evray and then animate that behemoth, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. So I think this card is very, very important. I would argue more important than Atlas.
Yeah, and this as well, like if you play your realm and you have an earth backup and then you already have a magic pot on board, you're able to go straight into Adamos or whatever 2-drop and Evray, restand up your backup to do the magic pot to go into something else, to go back into another realm to generate even more. So that's why I really play this a lot, because it's just a versatile card. And you can also play it off of Tyro or Shantoto, which is often casted.
Yeah.
So they're not always dead cards in your hand. You don't want to see them early, but you can cast them as long as you play your Tyro or Shantoto. And a lot of times I've drawn them together, and you just got to choose which one you want to play.
Yeah,
so
true.
You choose which one you want to cast. But yeah.
All right, so that's the monster list. I mean, we run a monster deck, but our monster lists are very streamlined. We're always talking about how we're updating this list and changing it, but I feel really good with this current setup of supports and backups and monsters.
Yeah.
This is a card that you had 3 of in the deck, and I think we trimmed down to 2.
Yeah, I had 3 of those, and I was really strong on them just because I played this in the Materia Cup the year before, and Cat 13 was the hottest thing, so Hegaton was the hottest thing if you were playing Earth. It was just the answer. We trimmed it down to 2, and I don't know how it did day 2, but
Fine.
It's always castable, and you can get it back off of the Echidna. Do you got Echidna on there?
Oh, so that's the one monster that's not on the list. Yeah. I was thinking
Wait,
because
there's one more.
Yeah, because I was looking at it and I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so one last monster is we decided to play a one of Echidna, and we're going to delve into this a little bit more in a second. But Echidna helps us recycle our hackathons, so now we get to run an extra. So we trimmed down to 2, but we really still have 3 in the deck because Echidna gives us that ability, right? So Echidna became a cheeky card. Did you suggest it, or I can't? One of these guys suggested the Echidna last minute, I think.
So there's also an iteration of this deck where we played Shinryus and Medines, and then I suggested Echidna to be able to recycle those Medines, just to have like spot removal, just a gun on a stick, really. So yeah, Echidna grabbing back any of the summons is huge.
Yeah,
especially when they all board wipe.
Yeah, especially. So we run 2 hex, but I'm gonna kind of skip ahead here a little bit to what we've talked about, which is Ned, right?
Yep.
Okay, this card felt powerful all day, no matter what situation I was in, except for round 6. This card felt, as soon as I played this turn 1, I won the game. There was not a game where I played this card that I didn't win, except for round 6. This card is very, very strong because it does exactly what Monsters wants to do, and that's just stall for a couple of turns and get set up. And your opponent cannot answer this card without using a ton of resources. There's just no way. right?
If they don't answer it, they're going to be spending the resources either way.
Right, exactly. So if they don't answer this card, they're losing resources because they're going to have to sacrifice, because they can't develop their board state without sacrificing something. And most of the stuff in the game, in the meta right now, cannot get through a 10k wall. Like, it's just, unless you have a Warped Astinian or a Warrior of Light 4-drop, like, there's no attacking through this.
Yeah, Rugged Gene is about the only one that can, but then you're just going to take the damage, because once you want to take at least 3 damage with this deck, that way your Tross, your Tomos is live, just being able to do all that to push for game.
Yeah.
3 damage is comfortable place to be at this deck.
So we played this card, and then I think it was kind of like a light bulb moment, because we were discussing the Chaos package in this deck and what that would look like. But we decided that Chaos would be too hard to cast. We wouldn't be able to cast it on turn 1 ever, and it would feel really clunky and dead in our hand if we saw it. But we were like, one of the appealing aspects of the Chaos deck is Arc.
Yep.
And I will say this, during the tournament, playing Neo X-Death, no one saw this card coming.
Yep.
But playing Arc, no one saw this card coming.
Yeah.
Because you just don't see Arc really outside of the Chaos deck right now.
Yep.
But for us, casting 3 CP,
It's not hard.
when we have
backup.
an Atmos and we have Evray to be able to kind of like take some of that strain off of us, it just feels free. It almost feels like casting it for free off of Chaos, right? And then that's when we decided to play the Echidna to buy back the Arc. So instead of having to play the awkward like Man in Black package, we get to just play another monster, have it synergize with our deck. We're playing this very powerful Neo X-Death. We're getting to play Arc with it, which is blowing up a threat that our opponent may have, and making them discard down to cards. That's how I won my round 3 or 4 against Mono Ice. Was I had a Neo X-Death in play, they had a Fist in play, and I was like, they went to play a backup so they could sacrifice the backup. They had 2 cards left in their hand, and I was like, all right, Arc your Fist, discard your 2 cards. And I put Mono Ice on no hand.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that feels good. That feels real good.
And my opponent looks at me, he's like, Fist was my only answer to be able to even potentially try to come out of this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this card was a powerhouse. I got to see it and cast it in probably multiple rounds.
Were you able to Echidna it back to your
Yeah.
hand? At any point?
Yeah, twice.
That's
Twice.
nice. And thanks for our sponsor over at Nerd Labs for purchasing all the full art Neo X-Deaths.
Yeah. Yeah.
This video is sponsored by Nerd Labs.
It definitely made having Neos in all of our decks at the last minute viable. So
Yeah.
thanks
I had
to them.
one Neo X-Death, and this guy had the rest.
So we had 3 Neo Exes in the deck. We had 2 Arcs in the deck, 1 Echidna in the deck. I think this ratio is really, really good. We don't want to have 3 Arcs in the deck because they can get clunky. I don't want multiple Echidnas in the deck because we don't run enough summons to make them viable, like really viable.
Yeah.
But the one other Echidna to buy back stuff, it's also a 2-drop, so we can Magic Pot our Realm, or we can just play a Realm and get it.
Yep.
So, if we go turn 1 Neo, we Arc, and then we go Realm, grab Echidna, grab Arc back. We're in a full control position, and there's no way our opponent's going to be able to close out before we can get set up.
And another thing, with even with the Shinryu package and this, drawing into Neo X-Death like multiple is not hard and not bad because you have Toneberry. You're able to discard them to be able to motion to activate Toneberry to block. So they're not always dead cards in your hand.
And actually, I think that's one of the reasons I did get a buyback on Arc, was I pitched Arc to Tonberry, sacrifice Mira, make Tonberry indestructible or unbreakable, pitch the Arc to Tonberry to animate him. I now have a Death Touch wall. They can't get through it. And then on my turn, I had the Realm in my hand, so I played Realm, grabbed Echidna, got Arc back to my hand. So, I stopped there. I blanked their entire combat phase.
Yep.
And I still get to keep Arc in my hand as a control package. And they have to still deal with this Neo X death. It was painful for them. 100%.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll clear all this up. And you were running this card already.
I was running it for the Monster Mirror match because I know there are a few people that are on monsters. And then you'll see it in Mono Water if you do see Mono Water. You'll see a few monsters. And it's just another board wipe that you add to the 5-6 that we already have. And our backups are low cost for the most part, the Animist and the Orator, so they don't feel bad to get rid of them for that. And if you play this, you're probably going for game anyway, so it's not hard to get rid of your backups.
But I also really like this card when we add the Neo package, because as we were talking about earlier with the Magic Pots, it just gives us so much versatility. It gives us a lot of combat tricks. Makes it so no matter what situation we're in, it feels like we're kind of in control the entire time, which is something that I felt like we struggled with monsters. There are times where it felt like we were always playing behind, whereas when I was playing this deck on Sunday, I never felt like I was behind. I overextended and then I lost because of it, or they just had the one answer that they needed.
Yeah.
But I never felt like I was playing behind.
Yeah.
And that goes to another one of card. So we have the one of Neo, the Earth Neo, and then we have another one of Earth Forward Titan, Lord of the Crags.
Yeah, I've been on this since the whole monsters as well. That's just another board wipe that helped. And that was really good against 13 as well. Playing against 13, you can always cast that. It'll break a lot of things. And also damage 5, which I have pulled off before, the Tyro and the Titan, to buff it, to board wipe everything else that's more than 9. It's really cool. Really good combo there. So you always remember that if you're on damage 5 with Tyro, I think it is.
Yeah, I totally forgot that Tyro even had a damage 5 ability.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, there's a lot of times you do go to damage 5 with this just because they're attacking. Okay, not a big deal. Take the damage. It is what it is. I've been to 6 damage a lot of times and been able to bring back my games, which happens a lot against 13. So.
I mean, I would say, there are times where I go to 5 or 6 with this deck, just because we also have stuff like Behemoth. So if they get too aggressive and they only leave one forward left, then we just drop a Behemoth, stop that guy from blocking, and now we get to win the game because they weren't thinking about that card.
Yeah.
All right, so newest addition to the deck, probably a very, very important addition to the deck.
Yeah, I was on the other mirror, the 2-drop mirror that brings back one from your break zone. I think the last format's what I was on. Then I went, when I was running the Crystal package, and then I went to the All Monsters package. So I went to this mirror, and it's become very, very good. It'll just be a Stonewall by itself between that Blue Worm Zombie bin will bring it back and just stall, which is why we put the Neo X Death in there, just to help it stall even more. So
yeah, this deck we're really trying to set up a lot of different pieces. So yeah, stall is the kind of the name of the game. Quickly stalling, right? Don't sit there and tank for 5 minutes, right? We don't want slow play warnings.
No.
But yeah, we are trying to just stall out our opponent, and we're trying to make our opponent use a lot of mental fortitude as well, and just kind of wear them down. But on top of that, it's another EX burst. So when we're taking damage, to get Automos online, while we're trying to get Tross online, this card is very, very important. Being able to take that as damage. Okay, now I get another monster back to my hand, and I'm able to start setting up that much more.
And paying 1 CP, as long as you have backup, which most of the time you will, pay 1 CP to essentially get another monster off your deck, which is another, technically 2 CP, is a free card. And then to make something unbreakable is just ridiculous.
And then being able to get Zombie, or use Zombie to get her back.
Yeah,
so early game, you can pitch her, play a Zombie, grab her back, tap something, play her, grab a monster. You've not really lost anything. Now you have 2 cards that you've played in a board presence and a wall, because she can now sack to Zombie, make him unbreakable. Yeah. So you've gained 2 resources with 2 things in the field. Feels good.
Yeah,
feels
very, very low cost card there.
Another new card that you're on.
Oh yeah.
It won me a round. It won me a match. I will definitely say that. I don't know how I feel about this card, especially as a 2-of.
Yeah.
I might personally like to see it as a 1-of. But I think the card is good. I think as we get into a late game, we run 2 of this card. As we get into the late game, the new Gal can just trigger a massive bounce and really kind of set us up for just that one. They overextended with one too many forwards, right? Yeah. And now we are able to play this for free because we normally have 5 monsters in play.
Yep.
And really just generate a lot of traction off of it.
Yeah, with this, you like a late game, you probably already got your Atomos up. So you dull all your backups, play whatever you want, then you free cast Gal to stand back your backups up because it does count as a cast. So remember that. And one of the biggest parts for me was day 1, you can dole active Gal to make any monster a forward, and I think I made Evray a forward to be able to attack for game. And it also will do your opponent's monsters as well, so that's why I kind of had it in there as well for the monster mirror match if it ever happened. This is my favorite card coming out of the new Opus, and anything related to monsters I fell in love with, so I had to run it. And I only run it at 2 because 3 is just too much.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, 3 is definitely too much on that.
All right, last 2 cards of the deck, and I think kind of the whole premise, what the deck revolves around. So we have the 2-drop Realm EX Burst. Very similar to Mira, right? Has the same effect of getting a monster off the top 5 of your cards. But then also makes a monster a 7K instead of an 8K like Gal. So she can do a decent little amount of work by herself. But we use her and the magic pots to play Big Realm, 5-drop Realm. And when I read this card when you first played it, I was like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. I love it. So he got me into this game a long time ago. I was on Class 0 Cadets for the longest time, and I never found a deck that I really enjoyed. So then I started looking into monsters, and I kind of went through every single monster there is, and then I came across Magic Pot, and then Realm, and I decided that I wanted to make a deck using those 2 cards to kind of like make a semi-turbo monsters, more or less, to be able to speed it up to get Realm's effect. So this was the main idea of this deck, and it's always been the main source of this deck. It's just changed over every new Opus or every format, because every format changes to what's on top. But this is the backbone of the deck, and this is why I've always played this deck. I've always played it at Magic Pot at 3, just for the simple fact that if you can first turn get a Magic Pot, so at any point in time, if you play the 2-drop Realm, or as soon as you cast 2-drop Realm, then you can Magic Pot into the 5, or even if you play the 5-drop Realm, then you can Magic Pot into the next one, and then you got 4 monsters on board within like the first time you play Realm. That's been the whole idea of the deck, and I've really enjoyed playing this deck. I've done really well at the Materia Cup last year, but it was on a Crystal variant. So now this is kind of what we have, what we're working with, and it may change according to the new limit break, depending on what that is.
Oh, man.
Waiting to see what that is. But yeah, this is the main gist of the deck.
I will say, running this deck on Saturday felt a lot more. It didn't feel as grindy as some of the older iterations of the deck did.
Yeah.
And it felt like we were able to just like set up control of the game and just run with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this list is always changing. The 3 of us talk about it regularly, and Oscar's just like, all right, why make changes to the deck? And we're like, all right, man, what's going on with it?
And I'm not going to lie, like if you play this at your locals and with your friends, they will hate it.
Yeah.
A lot of times people don't like to play it because it has a good matchup against most decks. It's very annoying to play against, and that day 2, it's very mind straining. And day 2, that's why I decided not to play monsters, just because I wanted to play something different. And I thought everybody else was going to play something different, but it was all meta. So
hey, I'm happy I got to play it.
Yeah, so he got to play it, and I'm glad he played it because I mean it made top 16, which was really good. And I went 3-2 day 1 with it, which I think I would have done better had I not seen Chaos Arc. but with the changes with the Neo X Death and Arc, I think Chaos Arc would have been destroyed with this now, more or less. It'd be whoever got it first, I think. And Chaos Arc is a lot of time a setup deck as well. So if you first turn Neo X Death, they're not going to have time to set up their backups to play their Une or even their Man in Black. They're going to have to deal with Neo X Death before they do that. And then you can just play another Neo X Death if you draw into it. So.
Which is just a lot of resources. And if they try, and then, like as we talked about, if they try to deal with Neo X Death on your turn, and we have Magic Pot, they can't. Yeah. Right? There's just no way, and a lot of people don't see that interaction. It's like we didn't see it at first.
Yeah, and a lot of times you play Magic Pot, and they're like, "Okay, can I read that card?" They're like, "All right, I guess." They don't really understand what it's going to do, and then they start seeing the realms bouncing into other realms, and then before they know it, they're like, "Okay, I need to do something about Magic Pot," and at that time, it's basically too late because you've already went through 2 or 3 rounds, and you got a full board full of monsters. So, and then you're bouncing stuff to draw off a Tross, and then you push for game. So, I mean, it's a very fun deck. I've tinkered with this for a long time, and I will continue to play this deck at every tournament, whether it's good or bad. So, it's just a deck that I love, and you'll probably be seeing it later.
It's a super fun deck.
Yeah.
Super fun.
All right. So that was Raleigh's Winter Cup.
Yeah.
Very fun. Appreciate meeting all the people that we met.
Yes.
Great players.
Yeah.
So,
Very cool people.
I think the players make this game.
Yeah, by far. Everybody was super nice. Meeting them, everybody the first time, and then just having a casual conversation with somebody. Even in the Materia Cup, for the most part, when we were there last time, I know it was more competitive, but every person that I sat down across, talked to them, had a conversation with them. Where are you from? How far are you coming from? You know, they asked me how I got in the game a lot of times, and it's because of him, because I've never played a single Final Fantasy game in my life, which is everybody like, what?
There's going to be so much hate in the comments now.
Yeah. But I am working on that. I'm going to be playing my new one. But I really enjoy the game, which we come from Yu-Gi-Oh! Way back in the day. And I feel like Final Fantasy is a superior game than Yu-Gi-Oh! I just feel like it's just so much funner. The interaction and just plays simple and fun.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think Final Fantasy fits like a very interesting niche, but I think the card game is very well rounded, and I think the game is very fleshed out in a lot of ways. There's some stuff that they could definitely work on.
Yeah.
As far as some comprehensive like rules to competitive.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, the game is on Opus 21, right? We've had 21 sets, and we have 22 coming out. Like the game is very healthy, very strong, and I think more people that get involved in this game will just fall in love with it.
Yeah.
And the thing that I love about this game in general is at the tournaments you see every kind of deck. Like, I mean, you see monsters, you see scions, you see Earth, Water, Une, Chaos Art, Wool. We played against Wool. We played against
Cat
Griever,
6.
Cat 6.
Cat 13.
Yeah, and I mean, even at like the Materia Cup when we played there, I seen all kinds of decks. It wasn't just FF13. I seen Soiree. I seen the 4-color Wool good stuff deck. Like it was just different
Ninjas,
variants.
Dragoons.
Yeah, Ninjas, Dragoons. Like it's very cool that any deck can compete with a vast amount of decks.
Yeah, I feel like the game is very balanced.
Yeah.
There are a lot of cards, and even if you feel like me going into round 6, day 2, I felt like I had that on lock, right? Like I felt like that round, I was like, I feel like I crushed this deck. And he was teching a card from Opus 14 that blew me out of the water. That was also going to blow the Warrior of Light 3-drop deck out of the water.
And the Griever 6-drops.
And the Griever 6-drops. Like, he was teching specifically for the meta.
Yeah.
And I think that all of those cards exist in the card pool because we have an eternal, for anyone new looking, Final Fantasy has an eternal card pool.
Yeah.
So there's not a rotation like Magic or Pokemon. So I think that that's really, really important of, oh, this deck is popular. I'm just going to go into the archives of the game and find this niche card that obliterates this popular deck at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Opus 4, Magic Pot, by the way.
Yeah.
So Opus 4 Magic Pot. So, and I'm playing that in Opus 20.
And Opus 5 Order.
Yeah, Opus 5 Order. So, like, you can go back and find all kinds of combos and different decks and have something fun. Jank, as they call it, but this is Monster. But
I wouldn't call this jank.
No,
I would
this
call
would be-
I would
this would
call
be
this
monster meta.
I would call this monster meta.
Jank.
Jank.
Like a nice like accent on it.
Yeah. All right. It's time to play.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.